My name's Chris.
And I'm a Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast.
Finale edition. You know, sunrise, sunset, sunrises again. Bake off, bake on, bake off again.
Bake off, bake on. Bacon. I like bacon.
Bacon. What's the opposite of bake off? Bacon.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about bacon, shall we, for the next, hour or so.
We know you have to throw it when you're unsure of what to do.
Thank you, Robert. We got a Robert mention in, everybody.
Yeah, not even a minute in.
Friend of the show, friend
Who
of the
else
pod.
can we reference? Monica made our wedding cake.
There we go. Let's throw other references in too, for no apparent reason. I've watched Sean babysit someone's children. Anyway, let's move on, shall we?
Moving right along.
It's grand final week, obviously, and you know what happened. It was a great win for Olivia. No, that was a previous series. Sorry about that. Got a bit distracted.
Sonny came here.
Yes, and Sonny had won. And no, okay. So, look, let's just get into it. Can I begin by, we need to talk very firmly about Nerman, and I say very firmly deliberately, because he was there for a firm battling time, dressed as a member of the Mortal Kombat crew.
You say Mortal Kombat.
He's about to fight Raiden.
So instead of like the big, what's it called? That thing, that big shiny, Powerball that comes out.
The sun?
No, fuck. You know what I'm talking about? When they there's it's like a fireball, but it's not a fireball. It's just a giant golden hazelnut.
That would work.
Yeah.
I mean, you're thinking of the Hadouken, which is Street Fighter.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting my fighters.
You need to get them right. What exactly is a Street Fighter?
I don't know. Diane Raphael still asks.
She's still asking the
free
question.
Plug for a really big podcast.
That doesn't need our help.
Really doesn't.
How did this get made? Doesn't need our help. We're helping them. No, Mortal Kombat's more like ripping people's heads off and pulling their spines out.
Oh, that's right. Oh, God. People, okay. So, our age group, when we go to the arcades and stuff, everyone's like, oh, Mortal Kombat, oh, Street Fighter. I was just all about Simpsons or Ninja Turtles.
I was all about air hockey and breaking people's hand. True
You
story.
still are.
True story.
Whose hand did you break?
Andrew's. I've broken a couple of people's hands playing.
Fuck me!
I used to hustle. Okay, so I need to explain.
What?
All right.
Why didn't you put that as a caveat when we go play air hockey? I did not know you mained people.
So, look, not deliberately,
God,
okay?
no,
but
of course
if you don't keep your hand inside that guard at air hockey, I can't help you. Now what happens is, like there are things I take very seriously in life, and air hockey is one of those things. So
Deathly serious.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the occasions was I went on an excursion to IMAX for Ancient History.
You didn't need to play Mortal Kombat. You were
I
fucking
was in
living
it. I was living it. Too busy living it.
Yeah.
No, I went to IMAX for an Ancient History excursion because there was a Secrets of Egypt thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was finished within an hour. And so we all got dismissed from... The seniors got dismissed from IMAX. So, no, I went into Time Zone in the main... No,
George Street?
In George Street in Miscellaneous City.
Yep.
And...
Spent a lot of time there in my youth.
I spent a good 4 hours at the air hockey tables at the very back. They used to have all the air hockey tables at the very back. And it was $1 a game, and it was put the money on the table.
I'm so surprised
and it
we
was
didn't see each other.
And it was all these people trying to just sort of hustling $1 a game. You play, you win. You whoever gets the money.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for 4 hours.
How much did you win?
How much did I win? It was about $50.
And was that enough to compensate the person whose hand you broke during the combat?
I know, usually it's friends that I break hands on.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, not the random strangers.
No.
You never break the hand of a random stranger in Time Zone.
You're going to fleece them of their money.
No, Kristie, if you break the hand of a random stranger in Time Zone, they're likely to beat the living shit out of you.
Yeah,
whereas if I've got a friend who's playing air hockey and they leave a finger just over the guard, look, turnabout is fair play, and I will use whatever advantage I can to win. And if that means that you get a broken hand, oh well, I won. And you learn by playing properly.
Okay, so getting back to the shed, right? And less breaking of hands on a children's game.
On a completely different note, though, I'm here for Aaron's bolo tie as well.
It's very nice.
I love the bolo tie floral shirt combo.
Yeah, just the little sunflower.
I mean, Ella, we're not missing what you wore was lovely too, but one of them was dressed like Mortal Kombat and one had a bolo tie and a floral shirt. I mean, come on.
But Ella, I feel like she just matched the decor. I'm glad she had the black apron on as a nod to her companions, and then the pink to go, hey, I'm
yawning in the middle
I'm
of
yawning in the middle of the podcast. Very highly professional. No, but you know what I mean? Like, just to match the pinks.
Now, it was a very floral set.
I fucking loved it. You know, like, they obviously had the finale budget, but without the ability
to have, like, food trucks.
And I feel whoever did this set design, I love you, and I'm all for it. And if you want to just come and put, like, thousands of dollars worth of fucking flowers in my house, go for it.
It actually did closely resemble sort of what we did around the wedding venue.
Yes.
Which was done up exactly like the Bakeoff shed, but, like, they copied us.
It wasn't as elaborate. Like, I don't think we quite had their budget. But,
and neither of... Although my jacket tried.
Peonies.
My jacket tried, but I didn't quite blend into the background flowers at our wedding the way that Claire's dress was an ode to set decoration.
Yes, it was. She was like, it's like, why is Claire's head just floating around the shed? Oh, wait. She's not just floating in a bunch of flowers.
And look, we'll do everyone's outfits first because it's important.
And you know, Mel channeling a bit of Molly Ringwald.
I loved Mel's suit.
Oh, pretty and pink.
I love Mel's suit. Mel's suit was amazing. She's had great suits all the way through this series, by the way. Whoever is doing Mel's suits, on point, 100%.
Yep.
Maggie's earrings resembled everlasting gobstoppers from the original Willy Wonka movie.
I wonder if Mel or Claire are like, Maggie, can we borrow your earrings? We just want to do a bit. We just want to... She's like, no! Because they actually are.
And of course, Matt Moran...
She invented them.
Matt Moran at this point in time, obviously, was aware that Andrew Winter was the only person on Selling Houses in Australia. So I'm pretty sure his suit was him auditioning.
Yes.
To be Andrew Winter's sidekick on Selling Houses. It was very Andrew Winter.
It was.
It was a very cream suit.
I loved it because it was quite 50s, but modern 50s, like that, you know, like...
What, 1959?
Yeah. The closest to the atomic era you can get from this point in time.
It was a very 1959 outfit. So we start off with Fondant Fancies. Now, normally, I'm not a massive fan of the Fondant Fancy in a grand final, but they actually did these ones pretty well, and I got it. Previously, we've talked about Fondant Fancies before, and I always worry that they're a little bit too simple. What I liked about these was they made them do 3 different flavours, not 2.
Yeah.
So they actually had to branch a little bit more.
My overall impression of this episode, it was contentment, and it was just beautiful. It was no drama, and this signature really encapsulated that in that, you know, Fondant Fancies are a staple, as we know, of grand finals and Bakeoff all around. It's, you know, all around the world. And it was just lovely to see it, you know, just taking a step up, like not making it ridiculous, but just giving that challenge. And sure, you know, it gave it to the bakers where they could choose to be simple, or they could choose to really explore stuff. And all 3 of them had a theme and explored that theme beautifully. You know, I liked Ella went for coffee, whereas, you know, over on Aaron's bench it was tea, and if you went to Nirma's bench, well, Dave Dobbins is just there with his herbs.
Can I just say, this is a rare occasion, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Kristie got to a joke about the herbs before I did.
Well, I just wanted to give it a burl. Like, I just wanted to see what it's like.
You wanted to try on my herbs jokes for a bit.
Yeah, just see how they fit. Yeah, not too bad. Kind of comfy.
I'll take them back for later on.
Yeah.
But
I've warmed them up now.
Look, 2.5 hours to do 18 Fondant Fancies, 3 flavours. Now, Nerman decided that he was going to experiment with flavour, so he was treating it like a regular week. Now, his flavours, when we say experiment with flavours, we mean it was a herb theme: chocolate, rosemary, and blood orange.
Wow.
Parmesan, strawberry, and basil.
That made me go, what the?
Apple, sage, and dulce de leche.
And I'm kind of like, that's a post-pork roast dessert right there.
It really is. And look, the apple and sage worried them a little bit. They were worried about the strength of the sage.
See, I did it because, like, pork's a sweet meat, and you know, you usually use apple and sage to, like, in your stuffings or...
Why does the Australian Pork Council not use the slogan, pork, it's a sweet meat?
And you know how much, like, we've seen, like, in barbecuing pork as well, like, there's a lot of sweetness that goes through that. So I just kind of see that those flavours are all together. So all he had to do was add some crackling, like not crackle on, crackling, and then boom, elevated.
So
Okay,
what you wanted were fondant fancies
Yeah.
with crackling strips on top.
Yeah. Any way you can get it, or throw bacon at it.
Just throw bacon at it.
Throw bacon at it.
So, Aaron.
Yes.
Now, Aaron was talking about, there are different ways that people like their tea. Some people like their tea black. Some people like their tea with milk. I'm making Matt and Maggie's tea solid.
How would you like your tea? Gas, solid, or liquid? What state would you like?
Yes, what state would you like?
You go to Heston Blumenthal's house. He offers you tea. Would you like it in subatomic particles?
Yeah, Heston is the only person on earth who, when he offers you a tea, doesn't offer it with milk or black or with sugar or whatever, but offers it in the 3 states.
Yes.
Aaron might very well move to that at some point. That would be fun.
Absolutely.
So chamomile and salt
You
and
go
honey.
to his house and the tea's in solid form, the cake's in liquid form. Just a nice refreshing cup of cake to go with your tea.
So chamomile and salt and honey, Earl Grey and vanilla, and there was also a hibiscus tea.
Yeah, I liked that.
Like, again, the 3 different types of tea. Now, we got about halfway through this challenge, and we already...
We didn't mention Ella's coffee
we're
choices.
getting to it. Because
sorry.
I do it in the order they do it.
Okay, sorry.
I don't know if you've heard the podcast.
No, I honestly haven't. It's just shit coming out of my face as we roll along whatever's happening here.
That's actually now going to be the new tagline under the podcast.
What?
Shit coming out of Kristie's face.
We roll along.
While we roll along. So it was about halfway through, and we already had the slight panic music, which I like to describe as oboes a go-go. And it is one of my favourites because it's the slight panic, so it's still that... It's beautiful, but it's clearly the oboe's getting a little bit mischievous. It's a mischievous oboe. This was also where you noticed that Aaron was using bulldog clips to hold the paper.
I thought that was genius, and now I'm like, oh my god, I need to use that when I'm doing polyclay and having to hold things in place. Like, duh. That's a great idea. Thanks, Aaron. I'm sure it's like bakers everywhere just go, oh my god, it's an old trick. We all do it.
I like the idea that your view of the way bakers who listen to this podcast sound is that.
Oh, they're all like this, when we talk to Robert, like you can't tell the difference between Robert and me talking right now. Oh.
Yeah, hey Austinite, how you going? That's obviously an impression of you. So we then get Ella.
Yes.
Now, I never thought I'd actually say this about an Ella bake.
Mm.
But it went straight to my heart.
And it wasn't childish at all.
It went straight to my heart because long black coffee is life.
Yep.
And it was completely encapsulated in one of the 3 bakes.
Look, you got my order from my 20s, which was a hazelnut latte. Actually, it was 19... it was when I was 19 and 20, and I worked at UNSW, and the coffee carts were all the rage then, because it's the turn of the millennium, and that whole... what people take for granted now, the fucking shot of hazelnut and all that shit in your latte, that was new back then. Revolutionary.
Well, I've mentioned before on this podcast that Dome, not the Western Australian chain, but there was a Dome coffee in the middle of the Sydney CBD. Mm-hmm. And I used to go there because it was the only place that would do it by the shot.
Ooh.
And I used to max out the number of shots that I was allowed to have in my coffee before they went, no, we're legally not allowed to serve you any more of those, sir.
See...
It's why I don't sleep. It's not like anything current.
No, it's just an over...
It's coffee from when I was 19.
Still pulsing through your system. I remember, speaking of the coffee carts at UNSW, sorry, we tangent away. So there was one guy, I think he was a med student, and you'd see him and you'd get about 4 or 5 shots, like a fucking espresso, pour about 6 or 7 friggin' sugars into it, stir it around, the stick would stand up in it because it was almost solid, and he'd just down it.
We're doing a lot of conversation around liquids in different forms.
I know. You could have dunked dunked the coffee in a liquid cake at that point.
So we then got to the point where they measured, cut, filled, and trimmed. And I put all that together because it was kind of a bit of a montage. One of the things you're going to see about this episode is there's not a lot of, and here's this pressure point, and here's this pressure point. That's not a bad thing, by the way.
No, it was just a joy to watch them excel.
It was.
It was just that culmination of they've been working hard, and now it's time just to see them do their best in the situation.
Now, Nerman became a little bit worried that his apple and sage hadn't cooled yet, and he was a bit worried about how the fondant was going to go on it. I mean, that wasn't going to end up being his biggest problem. His biggest problem was going to end up being the chocolate ganache, which rather than pouring over the top, he decided to spatula on. And that's always the sign of a good ganache, I find.
Look, he just needed a trowel, really, like as if he was putting on mortar. Or, when you watch those, like, old-fashioned restoration things and they're doing, like, the wattle and daub or the lime rendering. It was kind of that kind of feel.
I really loved Mel's comment to Nerman where she looked at him and goes, I know a lot about fondant, Nerman.
Oh, Mel, the new fondant expert.
She is going to come in now as a fondant expert. Just sort of ducking in.
She will put the fancy in the fondant.
Now...
She's a fondant fancier, if you will.
Well done. Well played. And we then also had Aaron with a very purple. It was an incredibly purple. I'm here for it.
Now, he said he wanted to do more of a blue purple, and I wonder if that was inspired by his nails, which were quite indigo.
They were awesome. And also he talked a lot about the idea of it was. Now, I couldn't make out if he said a violet or a violent purple. I think he said violent. I hope he did, because we both went to the same place and started talking about the violent femmes.
I know, it's weird. Like, in my head, it's violent also is pronounced as violet femmes. So, like, to me, the violent femmes are violet.
And all that happened was, I saw him do that, I heard him mention that, and of course, all I heard in my head was, that's it.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's literally all I could hear in my head for about the next 10 minutes. So thank you for that, Aaron. Really appreciate the earworm. They then finish up that first bake, and let's... I like the fact that Ella was, on your marks, get set, bake, so she spelt them out in the fondant.
Yeah. Putting her copywriting into use.
Yes, putting her copywriting into use. Nerman's bake could best be described as informal.
It was okay, if you got handed those, if someone said, I've made you these for your birthday.
Oh, rapidly inhale them.
Absolutely. Like, they looked beautiful. Like, they weren't informal in the infernal way. They weren't infernally informal.
They were informal in a Nerman way that you would expect. And like Aaron's even,
slightly
which
rustic.
he was a little bit worried about, I think. You could tell he was a little bit worried about the way the fondant went. They actually looked really good.
Yeah, they looked kind of like deliberately dripped like that because they were all kind of white underneath. So, yeah. So, the judging. So with Nerman, they said that the strawberry was a really good cake and the basil mix was actually really good with the strawberry, and they were like that. They said that the cake was a bit crumbly with the parmesan in it, but that's obviously a good thing because you've got parmesan in your cake, so you'd expect that. The apple and sage. Now, Matt was really worried about the mix, but he actually really liked it. And Maggie said that she really liked the moistness of that one. The rosemary and blood orange was very moist as well, and they thought that they liked the fact that Nerman wasn't resting on his laurels, and that he decided he was going to push, and they said it's rewarded him. My favourite part at this point was I just wanted them to stop after a certain point when Maggie goes, I love the blood. Orange.
Yes.
Like, I just like leave the orange out. That'd be hilarious.
I want someone to clip that for us. If someone can clip that and just have Maggie be going, I love the blood, and just leave it.
Vampire propaganda.
Yeah, just put her and Nandor together.
Yes. She drank the
drug
blood.
She drank the drug blood. No, she's a wizard. So, Aaron. Now, I love the fact that Aaron's like, it was so delicate that my cake just refused to be coated. I loved... Look, if anyone has learned the skill of I meant that in the shed, it's Aaron. He has perfected the art of, no, I meant that. Like last week with his bake, was like, no, that's exactly what I was going for.
And why not claim that your, cake has delicate sensibilities, a bit of a temperamental...
I don't need to be coated.
Yes.
I can't be tamed. I'm a wild horse.
Can't hide the real me.
Now, they said the chamomile was good eating. It was very light. They said that the lemon gave a really good acidity and balance. The Earl Grey sponge was great, but they said that the flavour was a little bit weaker than what they expected. They said the hibiscus had a really good flavour. And of course, at this point in time, Aaron does mention that once again, the Davidson Plum Corporation has got to him. Big Plum is in, he's in the back pocket of Big Plum. And I hope you've been rewarded, Aaron. I hope you've been rewarded by
plums.
Big Plum. Because the Davidson Plum cartel will, once they've got hold of you, They will not let you go.
No, it'll be magenta dust from dusk till dawn.
You will be in their grasp.
Dawn till dusk.
You'll be in their grasp forever.
Their plummy grasp.
Yeah, watch out for their plummy grasp. Look, if there's one thing we always have to watch out for on a daily basis, it's a plummy grasp. Anyway, Ella, they said that the fondant covered all, but the cakes were a little bit slanted. They did point that out. Good sponge on the hazelnut latte and great flavour. They said that the long black was quite strong, but in a very good way. And the chai was overtaken by the marzipan, but Maggie likes the flavour of marzipan, so she was thrilled.
And as Matt pointed out, chai can be strong, and she got
got the balance right
there.
So that's a really good start for everyone.
You shouldn't call chai tea because chai means tea. Just a heads up.
It's like Mount Fuji.
Yeah. So technically, she didn't do all coffees. Hers was coffee and tea. But
it's like Mount Torpenhow. Mount Torpenhow means mount.
In what language?
Mount Torpenhow is, I think it's in Wales. Don't quote me on that.
Oh, the Welsh.
But it's Mount Torpenhow is Torpenhow are 3 words for mountain.
Oh, because Tor, yes.
Yeah, Penhaw. So Mount Torpenhow. So Mount Torpenhow is Mount.
Yeah, this is the one you were telling me about. That all the different like iterations, like the Anglo-Saxons and the I don't know, the fucking Celts and whatever, they all had like pen means mountain, Tor means mountain, and hen means, what was the other one?
Torpenhaw.
Haw means mountain.
H-A-W. Anyway,
Everyone
that sounded like I was summoning Beetlejuice in a weird way. Anyway, moving on to the technical. Now, Maggie's clue was good as gold, get thin on top, and think outside the shed.
Oh my.
Now,
at this point, I've gone, oh fuck, not a master chef. You can use the garden, and here we go.
And we'll get to the garden. So I like the fact as well there was a little reference which ended up being quite poignant as well, where they were like they're off to make their own potpourri, and they could have.
They could have.
Now it was Maggie's flourless chocolate pear and hazelnut torte, which would take 2 hours. Interesting call. And I love Nerman goes, I want to show that I can follow a recipe if I choose to. Yes. Nice time to start, Nerman. Nice time to start.
Rebel without a recipe.
So the call was that it needed to be not too fudgy and not too cakey.
Just had to be just right.
They said they would need to pick their own lemon myrtle, which would, again, the hijinks of the lemon myrtle hunt. They said the pears needed to be cut very thin to cook through. It must also rest before going onto the plate because they needed it to set a little bit, and it must be cooked in the middle. And these were all the different pressure points. Now,
unlike any other cake that you get. Sorry.
No, but it's because it's
it's
flourless and because it's more like a brownie, and so it's about that set. Now, Aaron was talking about his egg whites and then talking about putting it in the mixture, and he goes, this will be mixed into the chocolate situation. Now,
I'd like to be mixed into the chocolate situation.
I feel like the chocolate situation is either a band, possibly an independent band. The chocolate situation also feels like a political scandal.
Watergate.
The Watergate crisis happened, and following that was the chocolate situation. And the chocolate situation was far more daunting than Watergate So tempers were frayed. Soda, temper, chocolate, tempers. Laugh. Anyway, moving on.
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to come up with a pun for deep throat and chocolate, but it just didn't happen.
Just eat a lot of it. That's it. I don't worry about a pun for it.
Just eat all the chocolate.
Exactly.
In that situation.
Yes.
All right.
Now, they also got to, again, weird questions they had to ask for 200. What is crosswise? Now, it's a fair question because it depends on which way you're holding the bloody pear.
No, it's very self-explanatory. A pear hangs from a tree in a very specific way. This is not a purely spherical thing. Fruit, you can tell which way's lengthways and which way's crossways, even if it's perfectly round. Because there's usually a core or some kind of thing like where it's connected to the tree or the thing it grows on. Like even an orange, which is spherical, has that little dent at the top and bottom, so like it has its innie and its outie. Like it's like the navel oranges are pretty obvious. Like anyway, so Crosswise is usually, going
Crosswise.
like horizontal, where you get a plane of the seeds. Like you're not. Yeah. So, like if you cut an apple and you go crosswise, you get a star in the middle. Is that a crack, kitties?
You needed to be in on their meeting later on in the show.
Oh, look,
I
missed the memo, obviously, but
you could have been a core contributor to the corporate meeting that would take place in a minute.
Yeah.
At this point was when I first noticed the Verjuice on the bench, and I'm like, okay, we're home. It's a grand final. Nerman, during this challenge, and I don't know if you saw it too, it felt like he was going slightly gaga crazy. Like, the giggling was more intense. I don't know. The giggling got more intense. Nerman just got more out there, and he just seemed to be... He finally lost his mind.
Look, the only thing that I feel he didn't step over the line of pure insanity is that there was gold dust there, and none of it went on anyone's face.
Yeah, you were waiting for that, weren't you?
I was waiting for it. I'm like, a bit of Lord of the Flies meets Lady Gaga kind of action. Just, a bit of Jim from The Office, gold face.
Now, speaking of that, though.
Better than Austin Power action.
Speaking of that, though, then,
a gold member.
Over the top of the shed appeared a ghostly apparition of Rochelle Adonis.
Being summoned.
Australian baker extraordinaire and judge for season 1 and 2 of the Great Canadian Baking Show. And Rochelle Adonis has a legendary fetish for gold leaf. Everything needed to be gold leaf or gold powder. You gild everything. Yeah,
the golden age. Elizabeth II.
We've got nothing on Rochelle.
Move the fuck over.
Nothing on Rochelle Adonis.
No.
Nothing. So
golden retrievers, you better.
Which ties into Nerman when he's like, there's no such thing as too much gold, and then he paused for a minute. He's like, unless someone robs you.
No, that's a good thing. If you have too much gold and someone's trying to rob you, gold is really heavy.
Just hit them with the gold.
Just wax them with the gold. Plus, they're not running very fast because gold's heavy.
And it reminds me of when you go on usually Year 5 excursion to the goldfields. And they'd take you out to the goldfields and take you gold panning. And quite clearly, they had just put, flecks of gold paint into the water. And, they had you panning going, you might find some real gold. Like Hill End still has a mountain of it just flowing down a river.
Look, I'm really glad because
I got a vial of sand.
Yes, I'm very, jealous of people like you who actually got to go and do Hill End. Whereas, my school didn't. But I was lucky that we used to go to Safala as kids. And my uncle was helping me pan for gold. And there was a big clink. And I was very excited because this golden kind of thing arrived. It was literally a bit of soldered brass that he'd found.
So what you're telling me is he had brass in pocket.
Yes. And he just...
But he made you notice.
Yeah. So, yeah.
No, see, I'd rather that than Hill End, where I clearly just had a vial of sand. And they're going, no, look, there's gold flecks all through it. And I'm like, no, it's sand. No, there's gold all through it. Look at the gold. And I'm like, guys, I know you're trying to sell this to all the kids they're excited they found gold. But clearly, I haven't even found fake gold. Oh. There's no fake gold in this. It's just sand.
My dad did find a little bit, and he was very excited. I don't know if he still got it because he put it in a little vial.
Yeah, again, my vial was just sand. And they gave it to me to come home, and everyone's looking at it going, show us the gold. And I'm like, it's sand. Anyone want the sand?
Did they not even colour it?
No, mine wasn't. And they're trying to explain to me, I was that bad at it, I couldn't even find the fake gold. I got sand. I got a vial of sand. That is all I had to show for my Hill End trip, was a vial of sand.
I'm so glad they did try and give you a computer.
Exactly.
Look,
what they could have just taken me to Goldmark or Prouds and look, drop a watch in there. Look, it's gold. Now
you needed my uncle along for the trip just to at least slip a bit of brass.
Get the brass out of the pocket. Now Mel was look. I'm going to claim this. It's probably not, but I'm going to claim it. Mel, a bit of an ode to the podcast. Talking about the fires in the Barossa Valley being powered by the twigs of verjuice plants.
Yeah, I was waiting for her to say verjuice fields, and I'm like,
come on, mention the verjuice field.
That's what grows in the verjuice fields. And look, I know it might not make logical sense that we have both a verjuice river in amongst the verjuice fields, but where do you think the verjuice river comes from?
Exactly.
But the verjuice fields.
Look, look. One day we'll lay out the plans of Stately Beer Manor. Okay?
Yeah.
One day we'll lay those
Which
out.
obviously don't include a treehouse, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. Now, much like Dave Dobbin in about 1980, it's time for us to go and pick some herbs. So, thank you. I'm back to my jokes. This is that's all I live for. We then go looking for lemon myrtle. Now, I love the fact that Aaron... Was it Aaron tried to sneak away first? Or was it Nerman? It was Nerman tried to sneak away first, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Who's tried to sneak away. And Aaron's gone out, Nerman's gone out, Ella's gone out. Which one's lemon myrtle? Now, some of the comments I absolutely loved from this was Ella. Mm-hmm. Basically, it was Ella. I'm going to say this, and she paused for a minute and goes, smells like a leaf. The next one was Ella going, ooh, grassy. And this is where it became Skyrim.
Yeah, it was everyone when you haven't updated your potion making, and you just learning your ingredients, and you can always get that first one by having a taste.
Yep, you eat the first one, and it gives you the first part of a combination for any form of apothecary
now,
work that you're doing.
Unfortunately for Nerman, it seems he got one of the ones that gives you a bit of a negative effect.
Yeah, his mouth is tingling, and Ella goes, "Oh, I found it! This is lemony! I found it!" And they go, "This is it!" And they take it, and they're coming back, and Nerman's like the 4-year-old following behind, going, "Guys, I can't taste with the tip of my tongue."
I was waiting for it to move away from a shot and then come back to him, and suddenly his mouth
foaming.
Just foaming.
And they're like,
turning
quick,
blue.
Somebody get the doctor in the... Oh no, he's the one passed out.
Is there a doctor in the shed? There was a doctor.
There was. He's on the floor. Now, at this point comes what I consider to be the take the piss moment. Mm. They go, make a syrup and serve creme fraiche. Right. That seems pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. We had a conference. We had a 3-person conference.
It was a stop work meeting.
They literally stopped work, walked into the middle in front of Mel and Claire, and they're reading. What do you reckon it means? I don't know. What do you reckon it means? How do you reckon? And Mel and Claire looked bemused.
They just needed a water cooler.
It
was like a bit of a blue sky session about this creme fraiche and syrup.
I have spent the whole season going off my head about helping in the technical. We get to the grand final, and they're not doing what Hoda does, which is run to the bench and go, what do I do here? They all convene in the middle of the room, stop and go, right, we know there's a TV show, there's a technical bake for the grand final, we're all going to stop what we're doing and talk about creme fraiche. So, what do we do with creme fraiche? What are you doing? What are you thinking about doing? I don't know. Aaron, what are you doing? I don't know. Ella, what are you doing with the creme fraiche? I don't know. And you can just see everyone, and you can almost hear production going, what are they doing?
Is this a Bakeoff or a conference on?
Do they know the clock's ticking? We haven't stopped. This is the conference going, because everything's in the oven and they can't do anything about it. So they've done a stop work meeting. Now at this point...
But the consensus reached was to swirl your syrup in your creme fraiche.
Which ended up being the correct answer. Now... None of them were cooked in the middle when they put the skewer in, but that's because, again, flourless, it's about setting it on the plate, which none of them were aware of just yet. Mm-hmm. And Ella sort of was compounding her problem. She goes, mine's not cooked in the middle, and now I've got gold dust in my eyes. And I like the idea.
In my eyes.
And I like the idea.
Sounds like an old 70s ballad.
And I like the idea that rather than the face paint or stuff like that, Nerman started off being really friendly, and then halfway through, Nerman was running around benches blinding people, just throwing gold dust at them, going, bang! Now I can win.
Please welcome to the stage Fred Jones with his
gold dust.
Gold dust in his eyes. It's like the one-hit wonder, no other song, and he's doing the club circuit.
So, I love they cut to Aaron at the end of this, and he goes, when we started, I didn't really know what a tort was.
And the majority of his audience were people who got tickets from Richard Mercer.
Oh, yes.
It's late night with Richard Mercer. And I'm giving away free tickets to see Fred Jones sing his #1 hit, Gold Dust in My Eyes.
So anyway, Aaron turns around and goes, when I started, I really didn't know what a tort was. And now I know that a tort is difficult. So the judgment. Aaron, they said it was really well done. The pears were mixed through well, was still warmed when it was moved. There had been a slight crack, but it was very well baked in the middle. They said the syrup and the cream was great. The cake was rich and moist. And Matt used one of my favourite sentences of the episode. It had a hint of the myrtle.
Whoop. Like, not moaning myrtle.
No.
Lemon myrtle.
Hint of the myrtle. Which, again, sounds like the name of a Murray River ship.
Hint of the myrtle. Is it a paddle steamer?
I hope so.
It's got to be a
fucking It's in a Chuka.
It's in a Chuka. It's a paddle steamer called a Hint of Myrtle.
A hint of the myrtle. It's a
there
paddle steamer in a Chuka.
Yeah, you can go in there for a Devonshire tea that features cream with a hint of myrtle.
Exactly. Hint of the myrtle. It's not quite made of the mist.
No,
but
hint of the myrtle. You can get married at a certain point in the river that's declared what's it called?
Neutral territory.
Neutral territory between New South Wales and fucking Victoria. Much like the Canadian.
Yeah, much like the Maid of the Mist.
Maid of the Mist, yeah.
Ella, they said it was exquisite. The pear was finally prepared. Then they cut it open, and unfortunately for Ella, the middle was still a bit runny.
Oh,
so it was
just
underdone.
because of the positioning of the pears. Like I saw what Ella did, and I'm like, oh, that's fucking gorgeous. Did not know that would have consequences.
Yeah, and as they said, the dried pear was well distributed, and they said the actual problem was that your perfection cost you.
Yeah.
Nerman. Now, they talked previously about how long to bake things for, and the answer that Nerman had said was, Maggie likes things burnt. And he's talked about this in previous episodes. Mm-hmm. And the first thing Maggie said was it had a good burnish level.
Yes.
And it's like, Nerman has listened.
And Mel actually coined that too. She goes, she likes it burnish. And there's...
burnish levels.
Yep.
I said the pears were a little bit thick, but they were very well cooked. The syrup and the cream was well mixed. The pear was cooked through, and it ate beautifully. Now, Ella was third, Aaron was second, Nerman was first. And Nerman was the most excited person you've ever seen at a technical. He's jumping up and down going, I know how to follow a recipe, and I get to be the bride, I get to be the bride. And Maggie
here we come.
And Maggie gave him a massive hug.
Yeah.
Absolutely massive hug.
And I think like that moment is really,
the moment when Nerman realised if he just followed recipes.
It was that moment, but also, it was just the theme of tonight, which was just...
nice.
Beautiful joy.
Yep.
Just little bits of joy here and there.
Now, the showstopper.
Yes.
The dream home. I said it must tell a story. It must tell your story. Yeah. I would have rather it told someone else's story. Like, they could have done the Three Bears.
Rabbit-proof fence.
No, again, someone could have gone with an 80s song instead and done the Dream Police.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just talking about random stories from other people.
No, yeah, I'm talking about like specific stories, but like you could have had you could have a Dreamweaver.
You could have like go the opposite way, like Nightmare on Elm Street. That's a dream, technically.
That is a dream.
Yeah, he did Dream Warriors. What was that, number 3? When they're in the asylum? Yep.
There we go. That would have been interesting.
For
Maggie, the nightmare would have been if it was bubblegum and chili, with a hint of pecan. Like one room in the house is just bubblegum, chili pecan.
Oh
wow, that's a nightmare.
Oh my god, 1, 2, 3 is gonna bake for you. Just 3, 4, he's got chili galore.
And of course, in a really obscure reference, the 1980s one-hit wonder for Australia, Quasimodo's Dream. And it's a really bad synth pop song. And the highlight of it is that there's on an episode of Love Is in the Air, the ABC documentary series, Kate Ceberano is trying to analyse it. And she's like, it could be about, it's the requited love, but he can never quite reach that love. And they cut to the guy who wrote it. He goes, couple of words, sounded nice, put them together. There's absolutely no reason to it. It just sounds cool. So I coined the words of the immortal Rob Thomas with man, it's a hot one.
It was quite warm that day.
It was like 7 inches from the midday sun.
The day we got summer.
It was the day we got
season.
summer. Now, Aaron announces that in this 5-hour period, he's making a slow dolce de leche.
Ooh, not a tin of carnation milk.
No, an hour-long dolce de leche.
Ooh, that's it's long.
Now, we've often said this about Ella, is that Ella quite often, I feel like, leads with the title of her bakes and goes from there. And I'm pretty sure that they got to the dream home and Ella started with the words Gâteau Chateau and built from that.
You're right. Like,
clearly, she just began with Gâteau Chateau and went, what does that look like?
The rhyming titles of each episode of her TV show.
When we do get to have a conversation with Ella,
yes,
and we are, by the way, going to have a conversation with Ella, but when we do get our conversation with Ella, I wonder how long I can speak in iambic pentameter for.
I don't know. Maybe let's place bets, people. You know,
place bets. I get tired of it after 5 seconds. Anyway, so it was strawberries and cream, raspberries and raspberry buttercream. Then the thing that was a bit different, she had the pomegranate biscuits at the top. It was the blue caramel water feature and that absolute brilliant idea of the fountain.
Yes.
Which is simple because it was tart case.
Yeah.
But it's a simple idea, but that was...
had to be executed well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only thing that let it down, fucking weather.
Yep. Well, the only other thing that let this thing down, of course, for you was there was no Dick and Angela.
Look, I am a massive fan of Escape
to the Chateau.
Even with all of Angela's like really bad crafty ways of decorating.
We have previously had an episode of the podcast with the Canadian series where... Who was it we were talking to? And it ended up breaking off into just an Escape from the Chateau conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we just had this long conversation about Escape to the Chateau and what they were building. Anyway, we'll remember that later. We then got some Norman tears, because what's an episode without some Norman tears?
And they were well earned. You know, he's coming, it's the last bake in the shed.
I mean...
It's all culminating. He's on the
does one have to earn Norman tears?
No, they're just really...
I don't feel like you have to earn Norman tears. And Aaron starts this narrative that was eventually going to significantly backfire on him. Aaron announced that he wants a treehouse. He never got one. He only got a cubby house vaguely. Now, did you have either a treehouse or a cubby house?
No, I had a tire swing. I mean, I wasn't bereft. You know, my mum and dad would often build us like pillow forts with the lounge cushions. But, you know, I get it, Aaron. There's certain things from your childhood that stick with you that, you know, you really wanted and you didn't get. Like, I wanted a wuzzle. I don't know if you remember those.
Vaguely.
Now, with my mum, who's was partially deaf, she heard Walkman, which were all the rage, and I think overall would have been a better purchase.
Far better purchase.
But I got a wuzzle instead of... a Walkman instead of a wuzzle, and that just lives with me.
That's a victory, by the way.
I know.
You did better. You did so much better out of that than ever you could have ever dreamed of.
And not only that, my beautiful big sister, she made me... I think she got someone's tape of Cyndi Lauper and dubbed me a copy and spent time writing out every single song, so I got to learn all of the songs.
I like that your story began with disappointment and ended in I got a better present.
Yeah, I did. I got my Cyndi Lauper tape so I could sing time after time, time after time.
Now, I never had a...
No?
I never had a tree house. I was too scared of climbing trees. I literally was.
Oh.
I had one tree that I could climb.
Oh, I fucking love climbing trees.
I got one tree that I could climb and I got to the lowest branch.
Yeah.
Got to remember, and Mum will freely admit this, she was a little bit paranoid at times about that we were going to hurt ourselves.
And what, not be able to produce grandchildren?
And no, I took that on board in terms of the getting hurt.
Oh, okay.
Although, again, it was my own paranoia, really. I did have a cubby house briefly, which Dad wasn't impressed for because I raided his shed and took most of the stuff from his shed to make the cubby house. It was a very cool cubby house, but he then took all the stuff back because I did that. I also did things like maybe, and now in hindsight I realised, well, not now, but obviously in afterthoughts, when I looked at the fact that I decided that I wanted to have like a code lock for the cubby house.
Wow.
So I took apart one of his really expensive sprinkler timers.
Okay.
Pulled that apart, and it was a code. It was a code lock. Now, was it a code lock? Of course not. I literally stuck it to the wall of the cubby house.
But it looked good.
Looked amazing until he's
That
like...
imagination.
Yeah, he wasn't particularly happy with me.
No, it's
Don't
a
know why. The
horticulturalist.
next thing you know, the cubby house came down. Don't know why.
See,
So-
you were over like protected, whereas I distinctly remember like being 3 or 4 and trying to climb trees really well, and then being left to my own device. Okay, so something weird, right? So my parents separated, and my mum moved in on top of our friend's shop, which was a hardware store, and so Dad, being the stalker that he was, moved into the shop, the flat above the shop next door. But it was good because his place had a little bit of a backyard and this awesome jacaranda tree. Now, the hilarious thing is, you know where my sister Michelle is living at the moment? That tree is still there, just down the road. So, and I carved my initials in it, and I want to go and see if they're still there. They'll probably be up taller now, but you know.
That story is the most your family ever.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You know, it starts with separation. It starts with like, you know, not supervising children, because I was literally in the backyard by myself, like just climbing a tree. And this tree overhung the fence, and I could have fallen onto the street below. But you know,
Yeah.
it was the 80s.
It was a simpler time. So now Nerman. Now Nerman made a glass house.
Yes.
Now we've passion fruit and orange cake, red velvet beetroot, yuzu filled shoe with matcha crackling, because fuck you, Nerman.
I'm
that's
going to
why.
order those for your birthday.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I am.
No, you are not. You are definitely not ordering those. Nerman, don't listen to her, please.
Listen to me. I am part of
And
the
Wattle Seed
podcast.
Solar. Which sounds like the name of a company that sells solar. Look, it's a bit... It
Small
was
startup. But
It was a bit similar. It was a little bit similar, though more elements, and really well done, obviously, with like the ivy and stuff like that. A little bit similar to, remember, again, James's self-powering house in Canadian?
Yeah.
The gingerbread house. So in Canadian, one of the bakers, James, made a self-powering...
Had real solar panels.
had real solar, which powered real lights on the house.
That he wired up.
Which he wired up because he background as a science professor. Aaron's treehouse. Brown butter cinnamon cake, orange and cardamom sponge, gingerbread walls, churro roots, and a goat's milk dulce de leche.
Oh, nice.
I really love the idea of the churro roots.
Yeah, look, if I was going to get roots, they should be churro. I don't know. My brain's just gone dirty, and I'm trying not to say something because I love Simone Biles, who's the greatest of all time.
Yeah, let's not.
And we're moving right along.
Let's move. Now, the question that we have to ask,
Yes.
and only we will ask, and this is what you listen to us for. You listen to us for biting coverage. You listen to us for the things that no one else will dare ask.
And for me, saying felching.
But mostly the first thing I said. And what we're talking about today is we've talked to you about, obviously, the festivals that happen at Stately Beer Manor.
Oh, yes.
And obviously, and we've talked about that there is a changeover in the middle of the year.
Change to the dragons.
The dragons look after the butter horde. So you've got the ice dragon and you've got the fire dragon.
Yep, fire dragon comes in during the winter to keep the butter, you know, at a temperate level.
Yep.
Make sure it doesn't get frozen. It can get quite chilly down there in Adelaide. And, you know, in summer, got to keep that butter cool. So, you know, you
The frost
can't have
dragon
just...
comes in.
Yeah, you can't just have one dragon. You've got to have a different dragon at different time. Plus, you know, negotiate like modern working things. You just can't have one dragon looking after a horde. They've got to be on rotation.
And so you get, obviously, we get like the trumpeters come out.
Oh, yeah.
There's a full look. It's wonderful. We always say, go if you're going to go to the Verjuice Fields, go at changeover time because the festival's lovely.
It is, you know,
now-
there's the letting of the lanterns down the Verjuice River.
Oh, that's a wonderful sight.
Oh, isn't it? You know, when you have that one dragon freeze it, one dragon melt it, and the other way around.
You know,
Like, it's
forget the Vietnamese lights floating down the river. Forget that. Don't worry about that.
No.
The Verjuice Fields is where it's at. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, Ella's like, you know, looking at her bake and going, it feels like there's a dragon outside. Now, I want to know,
Probably was.
was the fire dragon on his annual R&R, and did he decide to visit Maggie in Sydney for an afternoon?
Oh, yeah, you know, he's probably on holidays, catching up with family and friends in Sydney. I'm sure, you know, dragons have family, friends all over the world.
Decided to just sort of hover over the top of the shed for a bit, watch
like-
what was going on.
Hey, Maggie, I'm in Sid, you in Sid? Why, yes, I am. Oh, yeah, why don't you swing by the Bakeoff shed? Okay, let's do this.
And Ella's like, it feels like there's a dragon. It's so hot. And the dragon's like, sorry.
Yeah, it's so hot. Like, not only is summer kicking in, but he's just breathing fire by accident. Like, it's just...
Sorry, I didn't mean that. Oopsie. But the good news was, for the rest of the bake, he did hold one of his giant wings up and sort of block parts of the sun to cool the shed down.
Yeah, but that was after he accidentally did a little burp after eating a bit of Maggie's
and
torture.
set fire to 4 of the crew.
He set fire to 4 of the crew and also slightly melted a little fountain action that was going on.
But what it does explain, though, is why Maggie likes everything a little bit burnish.
It does.
Because he just accidentally, he accidentally coughs or sneezes, and the next thing you know, whoops.
Whoops, there goes her duck à l'orange. It's duck à la burnish.
Yeah, exactly. So the bakers... So at this point, all of the other bakers returned to the shed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, almost all the other bakers, obviously. There was no...
Ash.
There was no Ash, obviously.
Unwell, yeah.
But... all the other bakers returned. Now, this is where the only thing in the episode that I wasn't as comfortable with, and it's not that I hated it, but I wasn't as comfortable with this bit.
Okay, great.
Now, they all run inside, they go give all of the bakers hugs, and then they go sit inside at like tables and chairs arranged inside right in front of the benches. Yeah. It felt... I know what they were going for, but especially while they're baking, like it's used to people outside, so you can still focus on what you're doing and you have them outside.
Yeah.
It felt weird. Then they brought the families in, and I mean, Ella then borrowed some of Nerman's tears.
Understandable.
It was understandable. I'm not saying it wasn't understandable, but like Nerman has a patent on crying,
Okay.
so I got to borrow it from Nerman. But then the family then sets up inside. Mm-hmm. Complete with Ella now having to also, like...
Mother
at the same time as bake.
I was a bit worried about that. I really hope there wasn't a lot of that. Like, she can't help it. She's a mum, and the kids can't help it. They're kids. I saw her little son approach the bench, and I'm like, I really hope that didn't happen too much, because that's a bit of a disadvantage, like, because you can't, whether... if they're pulling the kid away, they're going to get upset. And, there's a lot of management that goes into that. I
mean, look, but the same problem that, Nerman had, obviously, when his next opponent for the next battle in Mortal Kombat came up and I tapped him on the shoulder and was like, look, I'm double parked. Can we get this underway? Nerman's like, not now. I'm filling my shoe.
Exactly. This yuzu isn't going to fill itself.
Do you know how many parking fines Scorpion got waiting for him? It was ridiculous.
Well, look, I hope there was at least a little bit of leeway because of COVID times,
Yeah, I mean, look, Sub-Zero turned up and filled in for Nerman, adequate replacement. But, Nerman obviously was stuck inside filling shoe pastry, which is something that happens all the time in Mortal Kombat. Just want to put that out there. Mortal Kombat 4 is all about baking shoe pastry. So we get one last great Aaron gift for the series. There's been a number of them. The leveling of the ganache and the focus of him leveling the ganache over the top.
Oof.
Aaron gives brilliant camera stares. They're so good.
Gives good face.
Yes. Now, at this point, we see Ella's fountain, and it's spectacular. Mm-hmm. Nerman then announces that he's using both real grass and edible grass. Nerman, we have a question.
This real grass, right? Are you talking about the Mary Jane? Because I'm kind of like, are you just gonna put real grass? Like I've seen my cats eat some grass and then vomit it up. We've seen dogs do that too. Like, okay, I think you can eat grass and not, wheatgrass is fine. But
I'm kind of here.
This.
Look, it's a glass house, so
how do you know? Did you just go get it out from outside? Like, there's a lot of dogs around. Like, where is that grass been? What is it being in contact with?
Oh, I'm more about the fact that it's a glass house.
Was there a little smelly poopy?
No, I'm more the fact it's a glass house. Mm-hmm. And therefore, if Nerman's going to include real grass...
Oh! And a lot of solar power.
That's hydroponics going on in there. And I like the idea that surreptitiously Maggie Beer could cut into that cake. And the judging could get really interesting really fast.
A little bit of crackerjack with the...
Yeah, she's suddenly going, I keep eating this cake, I don't know why. I don't know why. Do you know what's going on? I don't know what's going on. What's going on? I don't know what's going on. And then, like, they go, so
Suddenly she's
they go back to
rolling
the
on the grass outside.
They go back to the table and they're like, so what do you think, Maggie? And she's like, have you ever noticed that hands are really big and yet they're really small? And Matt's looking at her going, really? And she's like, yeah.
That's enough of Nerman's cake for you, Mags.
Yeah, let's give me more of Nerman's. No, I'm quite enjoying this. It's wonderful. And at this point, unfortunately, we need to leave that because Ella's fountain collapsed.
Yes, the dragon burped. There was a little bit of heat, and it just did a bit of a little slant, which was unfortunate because it was perfection.
Now,
It's still gorgeous, but it was perfection before.
the question that I never thought I'd ask is the last question of any of the challenges of this series. Did production just go to Hobby Co?
Obviously,
Because literally they laid out a train set in front of the two judges.
Look, they've looked at their decoration budget and their like finale budget. They're like, well, we can't have the Ferris wheel. We can't have these.
I mean, Rhodes is just up the road.
Exactly. And
Hobby Co?
Hobby Co is there, but was it open? Possibly at this point.
Click and
I'm
collect.
Not sure. Click and collect at Hobby Co. There we go.
I like the idea that they click and collected a train mat at Hobby Co and they're like, oh, so what's the train set you've got? Oh no, this is for 3 buildings. Now,
This is for Matt and Maggie to play with. Like Maggie Beer. Oh, let's give her the good dog, not the shitty dog.
exactly. So obviously we get the 3 then placed. You've got the glass house is placed down. You've got Aaron's treehouse, and of course, you have the castle.
No, the Chateau.
It's a castle and a gâteau chateau. It's a combination of both things.
Yeah.
Remember, she talked about it was a castle and a gâteau chateau.
Would you call it a castle or a Chateau?
I mean, I feel like I need to get an expert to evaluate if this is a castle or a chateau.
Oh, okay.
Give me a second. I've
All
just
right.
got to make a phone call for a minute. Yeah.
No, I'm already here. It's fine.
Oh, Madge! Oh, God, you've saved me a phone call. Thank you.
You're welcome. I told you I just float around the place,
I couldn't find the signal.
Oh, that's fine. I just used my telepathy. Oh, there's a little inside royal secret for you. So, castles, eh?
So-
I may know a thing or two about those.
So, not about the tax exemption status. We're talking about the castle themselves. So, is this a gâteau chateau or is it a castle?
Look, for me, seeing that, I'm like, oh, that's just a weekender, really? Like, that's just something that I might, allow one of my distant relatives to stay when they come to town. It might be like, oh, look, my 6th cousin twice removed's daughter's getting married. And wouldn't it be nice just to let them have the castle for the evening? Like that kind of thing.
Oh, so just a weekender.
It's just a weekender, It's no Balmoral.
But what is nowadays, Your Majesty? What is?
True, you just can't get good castles like that anymore. You don't have any more of these medieval reconstructionists doing proper building these days. It's all, catapults this and trebuchets that. There's none of this whole, just laborious tasks of cutting stones by hand and building good quality castles, which is really what I need.
Now Ella had to deal, obviously, with the dragon hovering overhead.
Yes.
Have you had issues with dragons around your castles?
Wales. Oh, Charles goes to Wales and I get phone calls, Mummy, the dragon's at it again. And I'm like, Charles, it's a myth. He's like, you and I both know it's not a myth, it's real. And I'm like, yes, we've got to pretend it's a myth, so just pretend it's not there. He goes, I can't help it when it's like burning down the local village again. And I'm like, well, we're good at covering things up, Charles. Just call the people. The secret castle service people that will just sweep up all the mess that those dastardly Welsh dragons cause. Now,
Probably shouldn't mention the secret castle people on a podcast, you imagine.
Oh, no one listens to this podcast. It's perfectly safe.
I mean, thank you, Your Majesty.
You're welcome, As my loyal subjects, I like to keep it real and keep it open. And
So, I mean, at this point in time, if you finished insulting the podcast...
No. I can spill all the secrets.
No, Your Majesty.
Tintagel.
Your Majesty,
Merlin still lives there. Glastonbury Tor. Yes, you can walk through the world. You know where I get my horses shoed? Wayland's smithy. It's all real. That white giant you see on the side, he's real. Guess what he rides? The giant white horse, of course. Like, come on, people. Leprechauns, though, they're not real.
Imagine, can we save some of the secrets for the Virgies?
No.
Because you know that's coming up and it's your favourite time of year.
It really is. You know what's my favourite time of year?
What?
Boob-like carriages. Now, that's something I don't have, you know. And Ella, if you're out there, if you want to make me a booby carriage, more than happy for it. You know, someone's going to have a bit of a time of it soon, I'm sure, and just need a booby carriage to cheer them up. And they can eat it. You've seen me recently with all the cakes I've had to be cutting.
You have been cutting a lot of cakes lately.
You see all the TikToks with me cutting a cake, getting a saber and going, no, I'll have the big one. Like, you know, don't give me your pissy cake knife. I want the big cake.
How many footmen have you run through this month, Your Majesty?
Oh, I think last count it was about 5. But
They're like
love
swans,
it.
though. You're allowed to.
Absolutely, they love it. You know, they're like, oh, Lizzie, you're at it again. And I'm like, I know, Gerard. How many holes in you does that make it? He's like, I'm like a Swiss cheese, Mom. And I'm like, yes, you are. And that makes me feel very good.
Oh, how he laughed.
Also, my bloody grandchildren, they're all having birthdays this year, so, you know, we'll be now taking inspo from this for their, like, you know, their dream homes that might involve, I don't know, no paparazzi around, or no haunted castles, or no dragon-infested places. Just
no Uncle Andrew.
no Uncle Andrew. That's a big dream, you know. Oh, what a pest. If I could just get that sorted.
Anyway, Your Majesty, it's been an honour and a pleasure as always.
Maybe send him to Wales with those dragons.
Maybe. It's been an honour and a pleasure, Your Majesty.
Oh, is this the wind-up,
We will see you at the Virgies, obviously.
Oh, yes, the Virgies. I shall go and take my leave and rest for a bit and maybe ride a dragon out of here. Yes, why, I shall. Oi! Gerald! Gerald the dragon, get here!
Yes, Your Majesty.
Okay, tally-ho! Goodbye!
I'm a dragon.
I don't quite know how to describe my life. I feel like I could describe it, but I don't think anyone will believe it.
Did you feel that rumbling when I was in the loo? Like, it was just like a big rumbling and like...
That was Gerald.
Look
Anyway.
cute. Gerald?
Yeah,
Who's Gerald?
I'll talk to you about Gerald later.
Oh, okay.
I don't quite know how to explain it to you.
Okay, no worries.
So the judging.
Yes.
Aaron. Now, Aaron once again brings up the narrative of the treehouse and not being allowed to have the treehouse. At which point we cut to Aaron's mum, who says, no, he fell from a tree and strained his groin when he was 7. And he's just like, oh, this is on national television. Correction, Aaron. International television.
Yes. And now on a podcast.
And now being discussed by 2 people on a podcast.
Do you have any like embarrassing stories that your mum tells?
No, not really. I usually end up telling them. Again, the one I always tell is the one of my brother and I going to Pixie Photo and having the photo taken in the Pixie Photo in the middle of the shopping centre. I'm about 5, maybe.
Yeah.
He's about 1. Mm-hmm. And there's a beautiful photo. It's still up in my parents' house of my brother and myself there. And he's sitting on my lap and I'm holding him. It's got that traditional woodland background. Yeah. 2 seconds after that photo was taken, he threw up all over me. And I had to walk back through the shopping centre covered in vomit.
And everyone's going, oh, look at that kid, he's vomited on himself. You're like, no.
It wasn't me, but it looked like I'd thrown up on myself.
The one my mum would always tell about me was when I was 2 years old and we were at a family friend's place and I disappeared because, you know, I was so well looked after as a kid. Anyway, serves them right. They came in and to about, like, you know, a good under a metre line around the bathroom and in the toilet, all blue, because apparently I had been just rubbing the blue loo everywhere.
As you do.
And Mum says, you know, when we asked you, what are you doing? And my response was, just wubbing.
Fair enough. I mean, look, my brother had more of them. Like my brother let the bird out one day. We had a budgie, and he let the bird out and came back inside the house, and the bird was called Turvy, and Mum's like, and Dad's like, what happened? And Andrew walks in and goes, Turvy's flying.
Yes, Turvy is flying.
Turvy was flying. Turvy flew back and landed on the curb for about 3 weeks, and then we never saw Turvy again. So Aaron, that Matt said that the cake was the best thing that he's baked in 10 weeks. What disturbed me about that, while he's right in terms of the way it looked, he hadn't tasted it yet. It's a bit of a judgment.
This is judgment call.
It's like, Aaron, I don't care what this tastes like, this is good.
I like it if Matt then used that and he became a judge of, like, I don't know, the fucking Pulitzer Prize. Like, hasn't read the book but really likes the cover.
That's the best cover in 15 years. Orange and cardamom was a great cake. There was a good contrast between the two different flavours. Brown butter and cinnamon was very moist and well balanced, and very good ganache. Now, Matt wanted more of the goat dulce de leche, but it sounded like he just said he wanted more goat.
At which point I'm like Simone Biles, do you want her in it? Ian Thorpe, who else are we going? Katie Ledecky, who are these? Michael Jordan.
I was about to say, surely you go Michael Jordan before you go Katie Ledecky, but that's a good call.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of, the awesome foursome.
Peaches, mango, peaches. Anyway, gingerbread was delicate and flavourful.
Golden Valley Gold.
And a bit of cayenne pepper in there at the end, which was really funny. Didn't tell Maggie that one.
No, I'm like, one last ditch effort to take out Maggie beer.
Nerman, they said it was a very modern house. The passion fruit and orange with white chocolate buttercream was lifted very much by the passion fruit. Mm-hmm. The buttercream wasn't too sweet. The profiterole with yuzu was, as Matt put it, so yuzu. I wonder if Matt was behind the naming of the TV show That's So Raven.
Yeah. He's like,
what's this show going to be? Oh, it's going to be So Raven. The beetroot red velvet cake was moist, and Maggie complimented him that it wasn't too earthy, and it also wasn't too sweet. And Matt absolutely loved those flavour profiles.
Yeah.
Ella.
I love the look of it. I'd live there.
Yeah.
I'd go there for a hot chocolate.
Ella, they said the carriage was very well baked and the raspberries sang like eating a custard curd. The strawberries and cream was packed with flavour, especially the strawberry, which was really potent. The raspberry cake on the top tier was moist and very soft. Now, I thought this was interesting in terms of the judgment because I felt like, and I don't know how you felt, I felt like they each won.
Yes, I agree, because and I love it when a grand final is like this, like there's no major fails. Everyone's doing really well, but it's very clear Ella got the signature. Like, that was hers.
Yeah.
Nerman, well, Star Baker, got the bride-to-be right there. But here, I really felt Aaron's cake. Like, Ella's spectacular, but for me, Aaron's was the winner of this particular challenge.
Yeah, I thought that Ella won the signature. Mm-hmm. Nerman obviously won the technical, and I thought Aaron won the showstopper. And again, one each. And so it does become a really close thing. Now, before we even get to the judgment, I did notice the fact that they have a brand new cake plate.
It's gold.
It's golden.
Ooh.
That's got to have been Rochelle O'Donnell's.
Oh, yeah, she's just there.
It was actually not supposed to be, but she had 5 minutes.
Yeah, she's like, I'll just
leafed the whole thing.
well, when she was 7, she's like, it's fine. She just whips out a gold leafing kit and away she goes. So I'll shine it up. Let's get some shiny in here.
So it was a very close call. It's like normally, sometimes they go, it's a very close call. You don't believe them. No. But in this time, legitimately, it's a close call. And Ella obviously gets the win.
Look, well deserved.
Could
have gone any way. And I was not disappointed with whoever came forward. But it was a good, solid show. It's been a great season. Yeah. And, Ella has been, she had more ups than downs. The only down I can recall is the bloody, macaron cone. And apart from that, she's been really solid from the get-go. Yeah, she's been great. She's been great, whether it's her brief or the Shed's brief. Yeah. I had to get that one in there because we do that all the time. But she knows what we mean. It's a fair call. Any of them would have been a fair call. But congratulations to Ella. Absolutely very well deserved. And congratulations to Aaron and Nerman, who, again... they said in the judging, and they were right, where Claire said, the three bakers brought something different. Each of them brought something absolutely different. And one of the things I love was that, Ella had that, obviously, that level of that creativity and that the concepts, and a lot of them linked to her children. Nerman doesn't believe in normal flavours. No. Does not believe in them.
Aaron is, for me, one of the most consistent bakers I think I've
Absolutely.
ever seen in there. He
Yeah.
just usually churns out quality.
Yeah. And
so-
sophisticated quality.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But obviously Ella did a fantastic job. And,
well
and-
designed.
and she
Done,
gets,
well deserved.
she gets the win. We then get bloopers.
The best! Where have these been? We need more. This is brilliant. Loved it. Well done.
Bloopers were great. We got a lot of dancing, a lot of Maggie dancing,
dancing.
which was good.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that the last line of the series is Jaywin going, "When does the comedy start?"
That's beautiful.
Very appropriate.
Yeah.
And that's the series.
Look, the first thing I want to say is congratulations to everyone involved.
Yep.
Not only did you have the challenge of bringing a beloved show back with a new production company, but you had to do it during COVID.
Yep.
You know, that's massive. Well done to all the bakers for, you know, moving through this with such grace, despite the amount of personal challenges on top of baking in a baking competition and being around, you know, like superstars like Matt and Maggie. Having to do it in such a context, like that just blows me away. And at no point did anyone falter. And I don't even look at Ash's situation and think, oh, she couldn't handle it. I'm looking at that and going, fuck me. What a strong, resilient person that they got to this point and then went, no, I actually need to take care of myself.
Look, everybody,
everyone did so amazingly.
everybody did an amazing job. Look, even when we've not agreed with certain things, we've said all the way along, it's still a great show. Even the off weeks were still fine.
Look,
you know,
fucking
like,
impressive.
and
Their off weeks are better than some of MasterChef's
But
best,
the other thing
quite
is,
frankly.
but the other thing is too,
Yeah.
and I want to sort of mention this. I do want to mention this on the pod, is that we've had, like, whenever we do criticize things, we criticize because we care, and we criticize not because we go, that sucks, you're
Gotta
dumb.
be cancelled. Never watch this again. Nah.
It's that something doesn't make sense to us, or the process doesn't make sense to us, and it's never the bakers. It's always a question of what was the process, what was the thinking, where were we going with it. And again, like last week in the showstopper, I will stand 100% behind everything I said with that showstopper, and I mean everything I said about that showstopper.
And I mean everything I said about, you know, we need to capitalise on every single square inch of a patisserie, and if that means hanging like a biscuit fucking pinatas from the roof, then we do that.
And again, we have differing views on this. But my thing with that is that I can stand behind that and go, I still think that's bullshit. But the show and the series was a very good show, a very good series.
Yeah.
The bakers did an amazing job. Mel and Claire were absolutely outstanding. Matt and Maggie were on form. And again, production did an amazing job under trying circumstances. So congratulations to everyone involved.
Yes.
And give yourselves a clap.
Thank you. Thank you from all of us fans, for bringing, like, we were so worried we're never going to see Australian Bake-Off again.
Yep.
To be quite
Now
frank.
this series might be over. We're not.
No.
We got some more coming. So first of all, there's Interviews Ahoy. There will be plenty of interviews coming. And then, of course, it's all leading in to Baking's Night of Nights.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, you know, legends come and legends go, but one truth remains, and that is that Virgies must be awarded to bakers.
Look, it's not our call. It's the Vision
foretold.
Quest.
The Vision Quest. It's all a fucking fateful, you know, journey that we're just here to witness.
Yes, so look out for the
Play our
announcement.
part.
Look out for the announcement of the next Virgie Awards, Baking's Night of Nights, coming very soon to, well, a podcast app near you. So that's coming up. There's Interviews Ahoy coming up. There might be other stuff coming up. Who the hell knows at this point in time? Thank you, everyone, for listening to this series.
You guys, it always blows me away to think that, you know, not only do I get to sit here and podcast with, you know, my best friend and love of my life, but there's people who actually get us.
They do. They really
and choose
do.
to listen to us.
You like
over
us.
and over. You really like us.
You really like us, except for some of you. But most of you like us. You really, really like us.
And even those people who hate listen to us, like,
Thank you. That's numbers.
blows me away that, you know, people actually give enough shits to hate listen.
So thank you very much to the bakers as well. You've been outstanding.
Yeah.
And you've been fantastic. Thank you to everybody involved in production. Thank you to the talent that's sitting to my right.
Thank you to the talent sitting to my left.
There's no talent sitting to your left, it's just me.
It's
so,
you!
Until next time, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we will catch you all later.
Woohoo! Onward, Gerald!